Stu, Al Sharpton is very upset today.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He is very upset that companies are dropping the enforcement of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. He said, why do we have DEI? We have DEI because you denied us diversity. You denied us equity. You denied us inclusion. If you want to put us in the back of the bus, we're going to do the Dr. King Rosa Parks on you. I don't know if that's a new dance move or what.
It's TikTok. It's a TikTok dance.
It's a TikTok dance, yeah. But you know what? I really don't fear Al Sharpton.
No?
Used to be a fear of Al Sharpton with some. And no, I don't think. You watch how insignificant that's going to be. Americans have heard it all. They've done it all. They're not afraid of it anymore. Oh, my gosh, they're marching in front of us, calling us racist. Oh, my gosh. Well, let's give them a little something to make them go away. They don't go away, okay? They don't go away. You hire and you take activists, bring them into your company, or you play ball with those activist revolutionaries. That's all you're going to have left in the end. So congratulations with that. Saw that. Doesn't work. No interest. It's not going to make a difference.
It's a mindset change, right?
It is.
I remember the first time we got protested by one of these organizations, and it was like, gosh, what's happening? Wait a minute. I didn't understand it. We came from we had started a local radio show that wound up going national. When you get to that level, these things start happening. And then I don't know, a few times after it occurs,
you just roll your eyes.
You just roll your eyes. When I go on Twitter and you see someone saying something negative about you or whatever, you just don't. I mean, generally speaking, you just don't care. It comes and it goes, and you just get to that point where none of it makes any difference to you.
Yeah.
And it becomes a superpower because you just don't care about any of it.
And especially now, nobody cares about it. Nobody cares about it. Do you mind being called? I mean, now people are wearing that as a badge of honor. Oh, Al Sharpton. Yeah, he came after me because I believed in actual diversity, because I believed in actual racism was bad. I believed in that idea, and the best way to fight it is to forget about color and just look for merit. Yeah. Ooh, I'm scared. It's not gonna change anything. Let me give you a couple of other things that Donald Trump, in fact, I could go a full hour on just the things remaining that we haven't talked about in the last 2 hours of the things he's done in the last 24. President Donald Trump declared the global corporate minimum tax. Did you know we had one? Yeah. The Biden administration signed us up for this one, a global minimal tax. So, in other words, companies... We promise the whole world we're never going to have a tax rate lower than 15%, the global minimum tax, because that would be unfair. And Donald Trump said, yeah, screw you. We're not doing that. And let everybody know that, no, we're not going to do that. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have a tax lower than 15%.
Let's do it.
But we could.
Let's embrace it.
I'd love it.
I will say, when it comes to economic competition, I want to be unfair. Yeah. I want to be the country where everyone else is like, gosh, I got to get there. How do we get involved with them?
Yes.
That's exactly who I want to be.
Yes.
Not to mention it really benefits the people here in the United States more than all.
Now, not everybody agreed to it because after Biden agreed to it, the Pillar 1 talks, that should really scare you. This was Pillar 1. The Pillar 1 talks stalled because we just kind of lost interest, I guess, in countries, Italy, France, and the UK, Spain, Turkey. Weren't really excited about reinstating their digital taxes. And now with Donald Trump in, there's no way they're going to do it. So congratulations to the rest of the world. We have helped set you free again. Now, Rand Paul has introduced some legislation to repeal Corporate Transparency Act. This is so important. The CTA, Corporate Transparency Act. We talked about this. This will protect small businesses, and it was signed into law as part of fiscal year 2021, the National Defense Authorization Act. What does this have to do with national defense? It requires individuals with an ownership interest in a limited liability company, an LLC, to disclose all their personal information to the U.S. Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. And they go after American small business owners, and any failure to comply could result in up to 2 years in prison and up to $10,000 per violation. So they are repealing that, or at least that has been introduced because, farmers, restaurants, gyms, lawn service companies, all of these people, I have to register with the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Unit? I don't think so. No.
That's a big one. We talked a lot about that when it happened.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Pain, a giant pain at the very least, going away, hopefully.
All right. Also, an update on the border. The southern border apparently witnessed an outflow of persons that came into the United States over the last 4 years. I don't know if you heard that. There was an outflow of persons, even on Inauguration Day. Illegal aliens were voluntarily deporting themselves and saying,
Yeah, that's good. First of all, that's you. If you're here illegally, you should leave.
Yes.
You should leave, and you should leave on your own.
Yes.
It was interesting. There's a poll Axios had today, which is the share of Americans who agree with immigration policies like deporting immigrants who are in the country illegally. The number overall 66%. So a popular policy. Mm-hmm. But the take from Axios is they don't agree with the ways to do it, right? Mm-hmm. And so they say, here are their examples of this. Using active duty military to find undocumented immigrants, only 38% agree with that. Deporting immigrants that came to the U.S. illegally as children, 34% agree. Quickly deporting detained immigrants, even if it involves separating families or sending people to countries other than their country of origin, 34%. Using money allocated to pay for the U.S. military for deportation, 28%. Deporting immigrants who are in the country legally, 11%. Who the hell is talking about deporting people who are in the country legally? So,
and who's 27% or 25%? They're for that.
Yeah, it was 11%.
11. Okay,
very
11.
low.
Right.
Now, again,
still 11.
Right, but are any of those policies really the policies you're talking about on a day-to-day basis? There are waves of this, right? It starts with obviously criminals that have committed other crimes.
Right.
Then you have people who come in contact with law enforcement for other things that they may have done. Like if you are busted, let's say in a raid of a factory. Mm-hmm. Those people would get deported now, as opposed to just released and then they go to another factory, right?
Correct.
Like those types of things are the interactions that would lead to a deportation. They're trying to paint this picture. I heard all sorts of coverage on this morning that we're going to have military members going school to school to find children who are illegal immigrants and deport them. That is not that. No. Is not what these policies are going to do, and what more likely the overwhelming majority of these quote unquote deportations are going to be of the self-deportation variety.
Yes.
When people start seeing that, hey, I got pulled over because I got in a car accident or whatever, and the police came over and they investigated, found out somehow that we're illegal immigrants. You're going to get deported for something like that. Well, when people start seeing that, they're going to say wait a minute. There's no longer this giant welcome mat for us to come here illegally.
Right. It's going to be too much stress on the family, too much, and they say, what are we going to do with the children? Take them back home with you.
Yeah, you shouldn't just leave them here.
Yeah, what is wrong with you?
What do you do when you leave? I don't know, when you leave a park. You don't just leave them at the park.
What am I going to do with the children when I take them to the park?
You take them home with you, right? And that is what, a large portion of this will be people saying, and when we talk about this, they say, oh, well, they're just coming here to do jobs and Americans just won't do. When we say those jobs aren't here, they're not going to come. right? When we're not rewarding companies for giving jobs to illegal immigrants who are paying them less than a minimum wage.
The majority of people are going to self-deport. Also, the cities that are sanctuary cities are only making it worse, because if they won't turn over the criminals when they're released or they're in jail, if they won't do that, then they release them and our ICE needs to go find them. And if they're hiding with the family and stuff like that, or a different family, when we do find them, they'll bust everybody. So, any sanctuary city that's saying we're not going to help ICE, you're only getting more people deported quicker. And you're not really helping. Now, let me give you this from the Chicago Tribune. When reports surfaced over the weekend that mass deportations could potentially begin in the Chicago area on Tuesday, Martin Ramos informed his boss he was taking time off from work. He stocked up on groceries and decided his kids would skip soccer practice this week. Ramos, who immigrated from Guadalajara, Mexico, without the necessary work permits, spent the first full day of Donald Trump's second presidency hunkered down with his family, trying to avoid being picked up by ICE agents. An arrest, he knows, would destroy everything that he and his wife have worked for and force their two boys into an uncertain future. They're staying home from school because they play soccer and they can't play soccer. We have to do everything possible to keep our children safe. What will they do if we get deported? They will go home with you. ICE agents did not show up at the Joliet factory where Ramos and his wife both work on Tuesday, but fear inflicted upon the employees there was evident. A coworker told Ramos that only 10 out of the typical 40 to 50 workers showed up. In Little Village, one of Chicago's largest Mexican immigrant communities, streets were mostly deserted and quiet. Tamale vendors, a hardy group used to braving all kinds of weather, weren't lined up on the sidewalks. The hardware store parking lots where day laborers search for work were also largely empty. So in other words, they're not hanging out with a sign that says, we'll work for food, we'll work for anything, and picked up by construction workers that don't want to pay union workers in Chicago. Is that what I'm hearing from the Chicago Tribune? The possibility of mass deportations have terrified some of the area's roughly 400,000 undocumented immigrants, prompting many to skip work, keep their kids out of school, and stay hidden until the promised raids end. They're not going to end. They are not going to end. Now, Chicago is saying that they're not going to help at all. That's okay. Sunday, Mass at St. Agnes of Bohemia Catholic Church was unusually empty, and the church personally advised a group of street vendors based on the Southwest Side to stay home during the week until they learn how ICE will operate. Out of the 13 street vendors, only one was out there. Most vendors declined to speak to the Tribune out of fear they might be identified and targeted. People are hiding. They call me and ask me what to do, but my hands are tied. I don't think anyone knows what to do. Yeah, here's what you do. You tell them to go home. You tell them that this government is serious about applying the laws equally and holding on to those laws. And you then tell all minorities in Chicago, I got to tell you, if your city continues to defy federal law, then your city's going to get funding cut off from the federal government. Let the minorities know that they are embraced by the federal government, but due to the city and the state's stance on protection of those who come here illegally and took your jobs and receive things the Democrats would have never given to you or any other American, the federal government only has one lever, and that is to shut off the funding to Chicago. So recognize who the bad guy is here. It's up to you, Chicago. It's up to you to stand up. Now, the question is, are you going to stand up with illegals? Are you going to stand up for the absolute vast minority? Are you going to stand up against the minorities in your city that are Americans? Because they've been protesting this whole time saying, wait, why are we getting the shaft and these guys are getting hotel rooms and free food and everything else? You never gave us any of that stuff. Yeah. Well, it's time for Chicago to wake up, and these states are either going to be absolutely left behind or they're going to wake up. And that goes for California, too. And you're going to see that choice on Friday.